Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ango Show. A lot of things happening in professional wrestling, and obviously I'm going to keep you guys updated along the way, so make sure you guys click subscribe. I want to kick things off with Layla Hirsch. We're not going to waste any time because Layla Hirsch was released by AEW. She's no longer in the company, and now we know about her future plans. What's really interesting, though, is there's been a couple rumors of maybe Layla Hirsch going to WWE NXT. A lot of people thought that maybe this would be a possibility. We also have an update on that. So she took to Twitter or X, and she announced that she is officially returning to independent pro wrestling. She says, after taking some time to reflect and recharge, I'm beyond excited to announce that I'm back on the independent wrestling scene. And what's really interesting is Sean Ross Sapp was speaking on the Fightful Select podcast, which aired today, March 18, 2025. And when he was asked if WWE NXT was in the mix, his response was actually very simple. Sean Ross Sapp actually said nothing so far. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean that WWE isn't interested in Layla Hirsch. However, as you guys have seen with like Ray Phoenix, Aleister Black, and Ricky Starks, whatever you want to call them, obviously WWE was very, very quick to grab their services. The same isn't being said about Layla Hirsch. And again, that doesn't mean she's not on their radar. It doesn't mean that Layla Hirsch isn't potentially going to WWE NXT one day, but what it does mean is that Layla Hirsch is in a situation where she might have to grind it out a little bit in the indie scene. Now, me personally, as a fan of professional wrestling and as somebody who obviously pays attention to things in professional wrestling every single day, it would not shock me to see if Layla Hirsch were to be snagged by TNA Wrestling or maybe MLW or, even some of these other companies like GCW. I think that's always a big possibility. But eventually, I do think it's a very big possibility that she could go to WWE NXT, especially when you see how quick the women's division is growing in NXT. They are going to have to make some room for more women once Julia, Stephanie, Zarya, Roxanne, and all of these women are officially on the main roster. So obviously that's a good thing, right? There will have to be a new crop of talent, and maybe that's where WWE looks at WWE ID talent like Kylie Ray or Zeta Steele. But I'm just saying, don't be shocked if you see at some point that perhaps just maybe she ends up in NXT. And let me just be really clear here. I think obviously NXT and WWE, they can't bring in every single person from AEW, but when it is talent that is not as prominently used, there is a window of opportunity to potentially do something with them that the world has yet to see. And that was a really big deal with the signings of like Fallon Henley or Thea Hale. I think some of those names that maybe you saw, obviously Elena Black was in the indie scene and then she went to AEW at one point, AEW Dark, then she became Cora Jade in NXT. My point that I'm making is that when somebody's not heavily utilized, I think it's a little bit more acceptable. What I don't want to see, though, is WWE just constantly signing people from AEW because obviously that's not really helpful when you already have a very stacked roster in its own self. So yeah, just kind of keep that in mind. And that brings us to our next topic. AEW has been forced to make the change that I don't know if a lot of people really understand why it's a big deal. But sometimes I criticize WWE for this. I criticize pretty much every wrestling company for this. If you don't know what I'm talking about, sometimes wrestlers get really weird tag team names or just really weird stage names in general. And recently AEW had basically came out, and for those who don't know, they started to obviously, they formed this new tag team with Commander and Hologram, and they refer to them as the Lucha Stars, which, to be honest with you, I don't know if it's like that bad, but it's incredibly uncreative. Like, it's really weird. You guys remember Lucha House Party? Like, I thought that was a dumb name as well. This was also something that many fans really thought was dumb as well. But Jose, the assistant, formerly of AEW, he came out, he put out a tweet, and basically after that, it basically just became this huge storm of a conversation. And then AEW changed their team name, which obviously some people are relatively happy about this. Some people have also come out and said that Tony Khan and AEW really don't know what they're doing. But really what it comes down to is you're pushing these luchadors, especially on Collision. You got Dralistico and the Beast Mordos. You have Commander and Hologram, and you just have some really, really good talent. And, to put Commander and Hologram in a team name called the Lucha Stars, yeah, it's pretty lazy and uncreative. However, they made the change. They made a change very, very quickly, and now they are referred to as Los Titanes del Aire. I don't know if I am pronouncing that correctly. I do not speak Spanish, so my apologies if I butchered it. But essentially what it means is the Titans of Air, is from what I've gathered, which I think is actually a lot better. I think it's a lot better of a name. I think that's a cooler name. I think if you want to put Commander and Hologram as a tag team, I support it. I think it would actually be really cool to see them as part of the tag team division and doing cool things as part of the tag team division. Both guys could do really good stuff as a tag team or as a singles act. But this is one of those examples of AEW making the right call. I think obviously you see the outrage, you see the feedback. So I give props to Tony for actually fixing that and going about that change correctly. The thing is, if you want to make Lucha Libre popular in America, you can't make a gimmick out of it. You can't do what WWE did with Lucha House Party. You know what I mean? Yeah, you might be able to make some cool merch or whatever, but at the end of the day, give them a cool identity and let them, let them celebrate who they are and their heritage and where they come from, and give them a name and a packaging and a merch set that like you could actually market. Listen, Commander and Hologram are just incredibly talented, right? So I feel like at the very least they deserve that. Really cool to see that AEW made that change. I'm all about it. And that leads us to our next topic. And that brings us to our final topic of today's video. Guys, remember how we talked about the roast of WrestleMania happening? It's coming. It was a long rumor. WWE is going to be doing it. Well, it actually turns out it is official. WWE announced it today, but it's been met with a ton of controversy. A lot of people seem to be upset about this announcement, and we're going to talk about it. WWE formally announced that the roast of WrestleMania is coming on Sunday after night 2 of WrestleMania, and it's going to take place at 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, if you're actually part of the Eastern Time Zone, it doesn't really matter because WWE will not be taping this. This will not be televised. This is going to be something for fans in attendance, which I guess is cool, but it's obviously not going to be televised, so that means WWE is not going to be having this on Peacock or Netflix or YouTube or anything like that. And obviously there's a lot of controversy surrounding that aspect of things. But a lot of the controversy here stems from Tony Hinchcliffe. Now, I am very big into comedy, and I am under the belief that comedians are you got to be funny, man. And sometimes comedians, they kind of go into this weird area of saying offensive things, right? And Tony Hinchcliffe is very, very popular. He's growing in popularity, but he got a lot of controversy because at some point, when politicians try to speak to a different audience or whatever, we saw what happened with Trump and his rally. Tony Hinchcliffe was there. He made a joke about Puerto Rico, and a lot of people are offended about this. A lot of people are upset about this. Now, I believe that comedy, this is just a personal thing. I feel like with comedy, people are telling jokes, and I think it's okay to laugh. And I think a lot of people want to be offended, and a lot of people, listen, I don't know what's the right or wrong answer here. However, I'm also going to say that maybe people need to just relax slightly, because with comedy and comedians in general, I feel like 9 times out of 10, I would say likely don't mean any harm. They're just trying to make people laugh. I was just at the Adam Ray comedy show in Chicago. I saw Morgan J, the week prior. And the thing is, when I see these comedians go out there and they make jokes and stuff, I feel like it's a nice way to just get away from all the bullshit that's happening in the real world. So to me, when I hear jokes, I just laugh. I don't really take offense to anything, even when maybe like things are being said about, things that relate to me or whatever. But I understand why it's controversial, and I understand why people are upset. I just think for WWE, maybe they're lucking out for the fact that it's not being televised. But it kind of sucks that it's not being televised, because I would have loved to see what WWE is doing here. But the point is, WWE is constantly trying to make things bigger and better for WrestleMania weekend. And now they're dominating the entire weekend with tons of stuff. So I understand the controversy, but I also at the same time too, I don't know if it's really that big of a deal. You guys can let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching.